Hello everyone, it's Darkseeker here again. Welcome back for another video. Now, we're reaching the end of the October season, and I thought it was time to go back to playing a little bit of Priest. In recent weeks, I've had my obsession with Control Warrior. I think I've produced 4 different Control Warrior videos, looking at different iterations, different decks. I've played a bit of Druid, played a number of different decks that interest me in Wild Mode, and as we head to the end of the season, I thought it'd be nice just to go back to Priest. Now, this deck that I'm playing here is constructed by a player called Sxavalentine. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Apparently this was a deck that was piloted to Legend, and there's proof of that. I'll include the link to the deck and the guide for this deck in the video description. So you can check that out. So it's a very detailed guide explaining mulligans, explaining how to play the deck. Now, the reason the deck interests me is because it has dragons, and I love dragons. Who doesn't love dragons, honestly? And this is a more minion-heavy version of Priest compared to what we're used to seeing. What we're used to seeing is Shadow Reaper Anduin, Raza, and then lots and lots of cheap spells or cheap minions comboing with the hero power. Maybe Prophet Velen, maybe Spawn of Shadows, and just essentially machine gunning your opponent down in the late game. This deck is slightly different. It is more minion heavy, which I like, because of the dragons. And hey, any deck that runs Ysera has to be a fun deck, right? It has to be worthy of your time. I love Ysera, one of my favourite legendaries in the game. So when I saw this deck, I thought, oh gosh, I have to give it a try. So we're going to have a look at a few highlights of me taking the deck towards rank 7. It's worked very well for me. I have no major complaints, except for the end of the video. My only complaint is when you go up against other priests. But anyway, let's have a look at this game against a Warlock. Now, this is a Zoo-style mid-rangey Warlock. And what's critical in this game is managing your AoE, managing your resources. And I resisted the urge to use my Dragonfire potion. I used my minions, I used my dragons, I used any other tools that I had, but kept my Dragonfire potion in hand, even though he'd been flooding. And here is why you keep the Dragonfire potion. My opponent is not running a Death Rattle deck. I think his deck is just pure demons. And therefore, all you need is this one board clear once the Death Knight has come down. And now, basically, he loses the game. Because he can't tap. Okay, his hero power does damage and gets healing, but he can't tap, he can't draw more cards. He's going to be limited now to a small pool of demons that he's got left, which he can't bring back anymore. And of course he's running the version of Warlock with the Pirate package. This is actually a deck I featured on my channel, I think last week. So it's effective, but once your board is cleared and you've played the Death Knight, you've really got no way of coming back. And I'm actually taking the Lightbomb here, just because it deals with multiple minions. I didn't like the Excavated Evil because he'll get a copy of it. Not that it really matters at this point. And I stole one of his demons. And there's Mal'Ganis. Wow. 3 different ways there of dealing with Mal'Ganis. Or 4 if you count Power Overwhelming on my minion. Stealing Mal'Ganis is just for fun, right? It's not going to impact the outcome of this game. Can't really think of anything else I'd want to steal in this deck now.
Your soul is mine.
So there are no demons in hand here. No risk of anything big coming out of the board like a Doom Guard. So We can just play our 5/5 as a body here. Not that we even care about silencing his pirate. Doesn't do anything important there. There are no other pirates on the board. So we're just getting a 5/5 body out. And the chances are he'll trade and use the hero power. Hey, that's absolutely fine. We are just biding our time here. We're just waiting. There's Kazakus. Now, I don't know... Sorry, excuse me. I don't know if I want to play Kazakus here. We have Brann in the deck. I'd rather wait for Brann. Although, playing Kazakus in that last turn, getting a good 10 cost potion, could have sped things up a little bit in terms of ending the game. I'm not sure why he's playing Power Overwhelming on his minion. I think he realises the game is over. So, Dirty Rat played there without any consequence. That's pretty good.
You are not the boss of me.
As we head into the final stages of this game, what is interesting is that we haven't drawn our Death Knight. And that's one of the issues with priests. Sometimes you just don't draw the Death Knight at all. Ysera's on the board, and I'm already eyeing up Dream with Kazakus here. This could get pretty interesting. Yeah, do 3 damage to your face, and this is a situation where the Warlock has run out of big threats, I guess. Okay, Brann Kazakus. And do you know what? It really doesn't matter here what I pick. Just going through the motions. We'll do it again. Why not? I am surprised that he hasn't conceded and that he's letting us do this. We're short of 1 mana, so we can't actually play Kazakus again. But it's okay. We're just getting dream cards here, which, oh gosh. We've just had another dream. So... There's the Death Knight. Well, we don't need him. I mean, the options that we're picking here from Kazakus aren't going to do anything for us. Adding random demons to our hand. We don't even have the space in our hand. But as I say, I really don't care at this point. We can't lose this game. I'm even going to play Netherspite Historian without discovering a dragon. Actually, I guess the benefit there was it created space in our hand for Ysera's Dream card. The Prince coming a little bit late to the game for him. And of course, we get the Doomsayer.
A mistake.
So we're emoting there that it was a mistake. To be honest, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at all. We have a hand full of cards. To the point where we're milling ourselves, in the sense that we are, we're overdrawing, I should say. I think it's the correct term. It doesn't even matter. And once again, he's letting us do this without conceding. So I'm grateful to him. He's a good sport. And we'll even heal him too, because we're feeling really generous here. So running the Warlock here into fatigue, I think is a testament to the power of this deck. and its staying power, its ability to last into the late game. And we'll even kill our own minion too. Why not? And not even taking full advantage of our hero power there. Do damage to ourselves. Why not? He's out of cards. What's that one card in his hand going to do? Oh, it's going to do 6 to my face. Again, not that it mattered. So I felt a bit guilty after that game. Extended BM on my part. But you've got to get your fun in sometimes. Okay, let's look at a full game here. And it's against a priest. And to me, this is the most challenging game, the most challenging matchup. Now, the author of this deck, if you look at their guide on Hearthstone, they've had a lot of success against priest with this deck. I presume they are an excellent player. They've even talked about keeping Draconoid Operative because it's a minion. It's a big minion, and it essentially discovers / draws a card for you, or puts a card into your hand. But no, we're going to mulligan that whole hand away. What we're looking for here is... Oh, hello. Yeah, we're looking for our Raza. We're looking for the Death Knight. Always helpful. Having Reno in hand also has its uses, although we're unlikely to die at the start of this game, like against an aggro deck. Against an aggro deck, you want to keep Reno most of the time in your opening hand. In this matchup, it's going to be quite slow in the early going, so Reno doesn't really do much for us early. But in the late game, as things accelerate, and as my opponent, assuming he's a machine gun priest with lots and lots of cheap spells, things really accelerate in the late game, and you can find yourself dead over 2 turns. But there's Raza. That's really good for us. So we have the Raza Anduin combo available. And thank God we guessed correctly with the Glimmer Root. Okay, it's time to pull the trigger. And we'll even him in too. Because again, we're feeling generous. So, our hero power now costs 0. We have access to the Death Knight. And we have a couple of cheap spells in our hand. It is worth noting, though, that this deck just does not have the burst potential of other priest decks that run Spawn of Shadows, especially. I've lost one game today to a priest playing Spawn of Shadows with the Death Knight. And especially if they play the Emperor and they end up with 0 cost spells in their hand, and they can pull off 5, 6, 7 spells on a turn. I mean, that's pretty nuts. You're basically dead.
Tonight, a tale of
Oh, this is Big Priest. Okay, this is an interesting matchup. His aim is going to be to get down his massive threats onto the board as soon as possible and to resurrect them or discover them from his deck, whatever it is. We have Lightbomb, we have the Death Knight. We even have a silence effect to deal with cards like the Lich King. Okay, so how do we deal with a 5/5 Lich King? Shadow Visions could discover us something useful here, like Entomb. Pretty good. Having your own copy of the Lich King is pretty decent. Worth noting, though, that is not his actual Lich King. It was a copy of, so we've still got to deal with the Lich King in his deck when it comes out. Shadow Visions into Shadow Visions. He's really searching hard for something here. What's he searching for? Presumably another Discover effect or Resurrection effect of some kind. And really, nothing to do here for us. So, there's Yashraj. Bit awkward, depending on what comes out here. Of course, Ragnaros. And what's interesting, of course, is the Rag effect doesn't go off there. Presumably something to do with the ordering in terms of when the turn has ended.
The light has betrayed me.
So this is good use here with the Death Knight. We removed 2 major threats from the board, and we're now starting to get some damage in with our hero power. I could have pled Thalnos there, could have hero powered, decided to hold him back. Okay, one thing we don't have to worry about in this game is Reno. Wow, the Eternal Servitudes. Double Yashraj, that's awkward. That's awkward. And so is that. 4 very awkward minions on the board. We have Lightbomb though. Now, as I haven't played Priest for a few weeks, so I'm a bit rusty here, and I've got to remember hero power first. I keep forgetting. Okay, so we're doing a reasonably good job here of clearing board. Now, I could have hero powered the face, but if I'd done that, he'd have healed his minion out of range from the attack by my Drake. Okay, so Resurrect, brings back Yashraj. Let's see what else is in his deck. And there's the Lich King. Okay, so a massive number of threats have been brought out at this stage of the game. He probably doesn't have much left in his deck. So if we can get through these threats, we should be fine. We should be fine. The question is, how do we want to do this? Yeah. I guess he realised that once those threats were dealt with, he didn't have much else left. And streaking into rank 7 with this deck feels good.
Uncanny.
Okay. Uncanny indeed. Here is a situation where this deck didn't work for me. I was going up against another priest. And I was getting desperate, hence me playing the Doomsayer. I was afraid of dying, given all of the cards that he's got in his hand, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe the Doomsayer will stop him playing minions, committing minions onto the board, which may lessen the amount of damage that I'm taking this turn from his hero power.
Darkness speaks to me.
But my hand here really isn't doing much to protect me against him. There's Spawn of Shadows. There's the card that we really can't deal with if he's got enough cheap things to combo. Yeah. All of that damage, just like that. Feels bad. Considering that, you know, I view this deck that I'm playing as a slightly more honest version of Priest. Given that it's, as I say, more minion heavy, more minion focused. His deck is incredibly greedy. He plays Professor Peltris as well. And we're dead. Just like that. And I don't know if you heard it, but to add insult to injury, Leroy Jenkins was summoned onto the board for even more damage to my face. Okay, so what do I think of this deck? The Sxavalentine Dragons Priest with the Death Knight Razakus combo. It's a fun deck. I love the dragons. One of my initial worries was that there weren't enough dragons in the deck. It's not dragon heavy as such compared to traditional dragon priest. There are a lot of other minions in the deck that are not dragons. But it works, and it works well, because the chances are you're going to have a slightly slow start, maybe even a slightly slow mid-game, and by that point you'll have enough dragons in your hand such that you get your dragon synergies. I wonder about Ysera in this deck versus the Lich King. You know, a lot of people who argue the Lich King is better than Ysera. Ysera works well in the deck because she is a dragon, and just having her in your hand, stuck in your hand even, can be a benefit. Because she can activate Netherspite Historian, for example. She can activate Brann into Netherspite Historian, which is just phenomenal value, incredible value. So yeah, I agree, Ysera has a good place in the deck. It feels slightly slow against, you know, Priest who gets their Death Knight and their Raza played early, with their Spawn of Shadows, with their machine gun style of play, with cheap spells and minions. I played against an opponent who had the Emperor, and he just discounted his entire hand and just killed me very, very quickly once Shadow Reaper Anduin was in play. So you do struggle against other priests because this deck can feel a little bit slower. Skulking Geist is a very interesting inclusion. I like it. I really do. In an earlier game, I think after playing the Geist, it removed 3 cards from my opponent's deck. It was a priest. 3 1-cost spells were removed, which is actually really, really good because it gives them less fuel for you know, for the Death Knight. It's also very good, of course, against Jade Druid. So Skulking Geist, yes, I'm a fan of it, and actually, you know, the body isn't too bad either. So, but then again, I'm aware that there are lots of opinions on Skulking Geist and its value as a card. I'm sure a lot of people would replace it with other minions or other spells. So, I'd encourage all of you to give this deck a try. It's fun. It's interesting with the dragons. In particular, do check out the Hearthstone link to look at the Mulligan guide. You know, it's a very, very detailed guide, and it does have some excellent explanations on how to play the deck, different situations that you run into, different decks that you face, and the different cards you should or shouldn't be keeping. So do check that out. And once again, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. I would be very grateful. Helps me out massively. My target is 1,000 subscribers, and at that point we'll do another giveaway, so please subscribe, and I'll see you all again very soon for more wild mode fun.